our website or marketplace, Facebook or Google, performance or brand. It took us 1 year to find these answers. While things eventually worked out at Dr. Vaidya's, as some of you know, did it really need to take 1 year? Again, I ask all of you, what was I lacking? In both these examples, I was lacking a friend, a mentor, an advisor. I was lacking community. 5 years after I started my D2C journey, I stand in front of more than 200 of you with pride. What has changed since I started? D2C is now mainstream. My father has an Amazon account and has placed more than 50 orders in the last 2 years. My mother has set up online banking and has now stopped buying on COD. It doesn't take 200 investor pitches to close a D2C fundraise. It now takes only 50. But most importantly, we're actually enough of us to call ourselves a community. I want each one of you, even the guys who are having Jimmy's and the coffee on the side there, I want each one of you to stop for a second and look around. 5 years ago, this room would have less than 20 people. Some of you may know me as the founder of Dr. Vaidya's, some as an angel investor, some as the venture lead at Invest. But really, like all of you, I'm an evangelist for this amazing ecosystem. And I'm energized and thankful that all of you have made the effort to be here. If anyone questioned whether D2C was large enough, this confluence of founders is the answer to them. As all of you may have observed over the last few weeks, a lot of effort and planning has gone into this event. From the hundreds of WhatsApp pings. Where's Abhishek? Abhishek? Where is he? Get him back. As all of you may have observed over the last few weeks, a lot of effort and planning has gone into this event. From the hundreds of WhatsApp pings to our payment link getting leaked, we had our share of hiccups. But all of this has been made possible because of our amazing volunteers. Let's put a big round of applause for Abhishek, Vicky and family, Shruti, Sachin, Kirtika, and everyone else who's put this together for all of us to enjoy. Thank you for putting together this amazing venue, this amazing ambience and this atmosphere that all of us are part of. Another big thank you to all of the brands who came forward and volunteered to sample your products. I'm proud to say that all of you will leave with a goodie bag of more than 50 brands. That shows really the power of our community. Is Abhishek here? So as some of you already know, D2C Insider is a community by founders and for founders. The idea with the community is to be that support system that I didn't have while I was building Dr. Vaidya's. In this community, everyone is equal. There is no big or small. So in the spirit of community, I'm going to ask all of you to take 5 promises with me. I assure you each of these are easy to implement. 1, take from the community, but give back even more. That's the only way a community is built. 2, if you have a D2C brand as an option, pick it even if you have to pay more. 3, other than today in the goodie bag, don't take anything free from a D2C founder. But yes, a coupon code is your right, so ask for it. 4, have a drink with someone tonight who you think is your competitor. And 5, speak to 10 people you've never spoken to before and go up to one person who you've always wanted to speak to but never had the chance. Before I end, I actually have one really big surprise. Other than me, no one knows about this. We have a community member, who all of you know, who has a hidden talent and has agreed to sing a song that he has composed especially for this event. It took a lot of convincing, but he's finally agreed to do this. So guys, put your hands together for Abhishek Shah, the founder of Almo, singing for us live for the first time. Abhishek, on stage to sing a song that you've composed for this amazing confluence of founders. Come on, guys, a chant for Abhishek. Okay, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So since all of you have been quiet during my speech, some of you weren't really listening. Let's get warmed up and make some noise before we introduce our keynote speaker. 3 cheers to D2C. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip. I hope all of you enjoyed this pre-show before the real rock stars come for the Unconference. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, our keynote speaker. He's a friend, a mentor, one of the earliest backers of the ecosystem, early investor in Bira, Wingreens, Lending Cart. Put your hands together for Ashwin Chadda, managing partner of Anicut Capital. How are you, sir? How are you? Floor is yours.
I was hoping. Hi guys, my name is Ashwin. I run a firm called Anicut Capital. Have been investing in D2C brands for now a long time before, maybe even before the word D2C was coined. So I'm glad to see many of you are people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with in the past, and hopefully during the course of today's events, I will have more time to meet with hopefully a whole bunch of founders. The way I see the investing business, and especially investing in D2C brands, is what I was asked to speak about. Before I even get started, I want to say that the job that founders do, in my view, is the hardest job that one can ever ask for. So being an investor is very easy. You just hopefully pick the right founder and let the founder do everything from then on. And our job is more to be in the back of the stage than be in the front of the stage. So you guys are the guys who will always be the front of the house guys, and we're always the back of the house. So as long as your investor knows that, I think you're in good shape. So I just wanted to again do 3 cheers to you guys, because this night is all about the founders and nothing else. So thanks for each one of you for being here and being so special to the community and enabling all of us to work with you guys. Again, 3 cheers, a big round of applause to all the founders here. I wanted to make this a little bit more interactive. I think you guys have heard from Arjun, who is one of the best people in this space. He's given a whole bunch of advice. I thought it would be fun if we, between Arjun and I, we ask a couple of questions to each other, maybe a few tough questions, so that you guys could actually get straight from the heart answers from either of us. Now, Arjun's probably one of the only guys here who's actually been a founder, had an awesome exit, and now has become an investor. So there is no better person to actually speak to all of us than Arjun. So if I could just ask Arjun to come up and we could do a couple of questions together, so it's a little bit more interactive and fun. Arjun, if it's okay, I'll take the first question and then you go. Arjun, since you've seen both sides, you've been a founder, you've built a brand, I'm sure you've had many sleepless nights, and then had a very, very successful exit after building I would say, iconic brand. And now you have taken the shoes of an investor. So in my view, I'm very clear, I know which is the harder part, but I wanted to check from you, now that you're doing both, which to you is the more harder one, and which one would you actually, in your next life, do again?
I think, Ashwin, very easy question. There is no comparison between the founder's life and the investor's life. So I want to say, it's really, really easy. My job today is much easier than my job as a founder. Why? Because I actually get to sleep at night, right? As an investor, you get to sleep at night because someone else is doing the work for you. As a founder, you don't. So actually, I met Rajat from My Upchar after a really, really long time. And he said, dude, you're looking really fit. So I was like, yeah. He said, but what's the secret? Like, I met you 4 years ago and you're not so fit. I said, look, I wake up in the morning, I read my WhatsApp, I do my workout, and then I start work. If you're a founder, 10 things break before you can do your workout, right? So definitely being an investor is much easier. And yes, if I had to do it all over again, I'd be a founder again. So Ashwin, you've seen many pitches, right? You must have seen 1,000 pitches. But I hear from experienced investors that you know in the first 15 minutes whether it's a founder you want to back or not. So for you, what are those attributes or things that you get in those first 15 minutes that makes you know it's a good founder?
Thanks, Arjun. That's a really important question. Actually, having done this for a number of years, I think probably in the first 5 or 10 minutes, you know whether you're going to back a founder or not. And it's critical how you position yourself in those first few minutes, right? Few pet peeves, always email your deck in advance of a conversation so that the investor has a chance to read and prepare. The last thing you want to do is, somebody who is, looking at the phone, not paying attention to what you're saying. So, always try and get the deck before, possibly a day or two before, so that the person really has a chance to go through it. The second is, I think the one thing I look for is energy. So if I have a founder who is completely dedicated to the cause, you can get to know immediately. It comes out in the way you speak. It comes out in your, how you take the life lessons or the reason why you started your business, the passion. That should be very, very clear, and it should come out very easily. So if you have a 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute pitch, you should prepare that and perfect that always, because like I said, in the first 5 or 10 minutes, most founders have already made their decision. So those are 2 or 3 things that I look forward to. Obviously, everything else is, the metrics, the customer engagement. You look at, whether you have a profitability. All of those things will come, but the most important is the passion of the founder and why someone has started it. So get that first 30-second, 1 minute pitch always ready, and everything else follows from then on. Super. Okay, this is the fun part. Now I get to ask the expert a question again. Arjun, what in your mind, when you look at now, you're an investor, you're looking again at many proposals. What are the 3 things that you like to see in a founder that pitches to you? And also, I would say in the deck, if you could just make 3 observations on how we can help each other, and all the founders here can learn from that.
Look, I think just going off what you said, I look at 3 things when I want to make an investment, especially in the consumer brand space, right? The first thing is the founder. I obviously want to be able to gel with the founder, because if you make an investment, it's a 5 to 7 year relationship. But I also want to see someone who I believe will be okay to constantly keep failing and fighting back, right? Because the job of a founder is to fight with grit and resilience for a really long time. The other thing about a founder which I need to see is, like, I think there's a lot of problems to be solved in space, and I may have conjured up solutions, but I'm not the right guy to solve that, right? So for me, I had the credibility to be able to solve a problem in Ayurveda because of my family's legacy, right? So right to win. Second thing is, and for all of you who haven't seen the deck for Jimmy's cocktails, large enough market size, right? As an investor, I need to be convinced that this is not a small market. I'm, for example, a gluten-free, sugar-free individual, but I will not invest in gluten-free, sugar-free products because I feel like the market size is not large enough, right? So Ankur does a great job explaining how big the market for cocktails is, and he was able to convince me in the first conversation. And the third thing is, as you said, right? It's how the business is doing. So gross margin, growth velocity, sales numbers, unit economics, what's the team looking like? I think all of those things. So if I were to put percentages to that, 50% founder, 20% TAM, 30% business and business performance. So as an investor, you get to see hundreds of opportunities every month, right? And You can't invest in all of them because you have a limited amount of capital. Our job is actually one of FOMO and regretting misses, right? So, question to you is, in your multiple years of investing, what's your anti-portfolio, the companies you missed, and what do you learn from those misses?
No, you're absolutely right. I have a very large anti-portfolio. I would say the way I look, it's actually very simple for me. I'm not going to, as an investor, get into every hot company, right? So it's not possible. We all make mistakes. We all have our own biases. That comes out in the style of investing that you do. So for sure, you're not going to get everything. So I'm very clear. The one thing that I try and do though is just to be in touch with as many founders as I can, even if we haven't had a chance to work together. What that does is that it helps me realize where I went wrong, and possibly, sometimes this happens, you get a second bite at the apple. So you may not have been able to come in at the seed stage, but maybe you come in at a Series A. So at that chance, if you actually realize that you made a mistake, you still, because you've been in touch with the founder for a long time, you actually can go in again. So we've come into many companies much later than we would like. So for instance, Matt at Blue Tokai is one. We couldn't come into the seed round, but we did double down in the Series A. So that's an example. The folks at Bira here, they know that Ankur and I met for maybe 2 years before we made the investment. The rest is history. As you say, the last 5-6 years for Bira has been fantastic. Thanks guys for sponsoring the beer tonight. But that's what it is. It's just, if you stay in touch with founders, you will find times to get in even at later stages.
So guys, a big round of applause for Ashwin for sharing his insights with us. I'm going to hand over back to the team to introduce the Unconference.
So before we start the Unconference, I would just invite Sahil again to announce the winners of the activity.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give a big round of applause for Arjun and Ashwin? Everyone. Thank you. Okay, so to all the people standing on my right, having the sip of the coffee or whatever, Jimmy cocktails, I'm sure we have some of the amazing brands. May I please request everybody, I guess, I think it's unfair for the speakers to go on stage, and probably, I think there's a lot of chatter which is coming from here. So we can enjoy the cup of this coffee and whatever drink that you're having. May I please request everybody to please take the seats. Like, you can get your drinks, you can go back to your seats. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Everybody, can we please come back to the seats? Thank you very much. All right, so it's time to announce the winners. So which table is going to win? Which team? 10? 3? 5? 4? So all the teams are going to win. Okay. So, where is Sachi? Sachi, I forgot the results. I mean, where are you? I mean, oh no, I remember the results, but you need to tell me who is the first one and the second one. Because we are going to announce 2 winning teams here. Okay. Vishal also knows. The second winning team is table number 5. Please give a big hand, everybody. Please join us on stage. It's time for the reward and recognition. Can we have the prizes, the gift hampers? Congratulations. No, we got extra points. You remember? Of course. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Congratulations to everybody here. ये table number 5 में कुछ ज़्यादा लोग नहीं आ गए? इतने तो बैठे नहीं थे. All right. Okay, so I request our D2C heroes to, or maybe, okay, perfect. Wow. All right. Congratulations. Can we please give them a big hand, everybody? Okay. Thank you very much. That's okay. All right. Keep one for me, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for table number 5. Well done, guys. Let's have a group picture. Perfect. Thank you. So that was the second winning team. And the first winning team is table number table number any guesses? Table number 10. Please join us on stage. Well done. Quickly, the prizes will go. You only have 10 seconds to come on stage because we are running short of time and the time starts now. अब जो 10 गिनने तक आ जाएगा उन्हीं को prizes मिलेंगे. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1. I'm really sorry, sir, but अरे आओ ना. Please, please. Thank you. Give a round of applause, everybody, for table number 10. All right. So we have got something from the brands itself. Congratulations. Many, many congratulations. All right. Here we go. People who have just come, they are wondering what is this reward and recognition is all about. Why are they getting prizes? So you need to come a little early. You are left? I mean, we need one. Yeah, don't worry. We promised that all the team members will get it. Table number 10, everybody give them a big hand, everyone. Let's have a group picture together. Please show the gifts to the camera. Thank you very much. Don't worry, guys. We still have few prizes left, and there's going to be one more activity, but that would be for one individual. Okay, I think 5 individuals we can do, right, Ankur? We can do it for 5 individuals. Maybe the selfie round, whenever we'll have it. Yes. So, all right, giving it back to Arjun. Requesting everybody to please make sure once we collect the coffees, everyone standing on my right, requesting everybody, you can pick your drink, whatever drink you want to have, and please come back to your seats. The humble request to everyone. Ankur, over to you again.
So I think all of us realize that this is a community effort. There is no sponsors. This is all that you see here in the form of gifts and giveaways is done by the brands themselves. It's the enthusiasm of the community that's making this move forward. Now we move to the Unconference. We circulated an agenda on groups. The idea is to understand as D2C brands, we go through various cycles. We start off, we look at growth, we need investment, we have customer service. And for each of these segments, we've identified people who have been through this journey and are experts here. And we'll get this session to be conducted again by our very own Arjun. He will invite the respective guests on stage. So Arjun, over to you. Arjun kahan par hai? Oh, acha, he's there. We also circulated questions for this, and we've curated the questions which will be answered during this session. And if time allows, we'll have live questions as well, but that really depends on how the sessions go. If you have more questions, obviously offline, the speakers would be available, and you can go to them and ask those questions as well. So Hope you guys have seen the goodies on the tables as well. This is all community sponsored also, except for the water.
Meet the reusable bottle that is putting single-use bottle out of business. It keeps your water piping hot for 12 hours or refreshingly cold for 24 hours. Constructed from high-grade stainless steel, Unbottle has double wall vacuum technology and a lifetime warranty with zero leakage. It's lightweight and reusable.
Sleek, stylish, available in 200 plus color combinations. Unbottled goodness for you and the planet. So why wait? Unbottle today.
But curls that are out of control, frizzy, dry, unruly, rebellious, it's all part of the game. Introducing Arata's Advanced Curl Care Hair Gel for the curls of a lifetime. Get intensely moisturized, lusciously defined, and voluminous curls. So the next time you address your hair, say it loud. Let's go with curly and proud. Shop at arata.in.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We will be starting with the Unconference, and we now invite our first panel,
So we have Rajat from Matrix Partners, and we have Abhishek from RPST Venture Capital. Please, guys, give them a big round of applause. And I also invite Arjun to take over the panel. Guys, big round of applause for Arjun, Abhishek, and Rajat.
मैं आपको questions पूछने वाला हूँ. So guys, gives me great pleasure to ask the investors the tough questions. I have in the past pitched to Abhishek and not pitched to Rajat, but I've pitched to someone else in Matrix. And neither of them invested, so let's see what I can ask them. So Abhishek, question to you, right? There's a lot of talk about D2C, offline, omni-channel, right? And now there's a lot of conversation about where D2C will tap out. So what's your view on online, offline, omni-channel?
So Arjun, firstly, D2C as a concept, right? While there's a lot of buzz around, can you hear me now? Okay. I think D2C as a concept has existed in India. Hello. So D2C as a concept in India has existed for like 50 odd years, right? The question is, what we hear right now is more about online D2C. I think everyone across most of the categories, offline still continues to be more than 95% of the market, right? So the fact that for any brand in its journey to expand to offline is 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 an obvious thing, right? The question is at what scale and at what point, because typically that's the area which is the biggest area, right? Online was something new, that was a new channel. Most of the startups kind of hacked it a lot better, right? Now when you're going into the biggie stuff, one has to be cautious, one has to be smart about it, but they have to do it. They have to do it smartly, go deep versus going with wise.
Got it. Okay, so moving to Rajat for the next one. So Rajat, as investors, there's always this lingo or conversation, right? I want to back the number one player because the number one player goes so far away from number two or three or four or five. So what's your view on number one player versus backing a two, three, four or five, right? Because every player can't be number one, but would you back a two, three, four or five?
So, Arjun, like always, it depends. The answer depends on the situation. But look, guys, it's generally very hard to back a number two, number three player, even in D2C brands, because even if they're not winner take all, the market shares tend to be such, or the pricing power tends to be such that, or the amount of capital that they end up raising, a lot of that is just lopsided in the favor of the number one player. That said, in any industry, if you can actually carve a niche for yourself or define a niche for yourself, either through some product differentiation or going after a different segment or going with a different go-to-market strategy, I think investors are more than happy to look at it. Like for example, we've just done a new beauty brand, which is the number 10th or 15th D2C beauty company, but they have a different go-to-market plan. So time will tell whether they will succeed or not, but at least plain vanilla, same product, same market, same strategies, it's just very hard.
So I think, Abhishek, I wanted to move to metrics, right? Abhishek, 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 it's really rude, yeah. Like it's not fair for the speakers, mujhe chhod do, it's not fair. It's okay if they want to go outside, but like it's not fair for everyone listening. Here, sometimes founders don't know what the metrics are that you guys look for, right? Like Should I look for really fast growth? Should I try to be profitable? Is it repeat rate, LTV, CAC? So like when you're assessing a D2C brand, let's take an online first brand, right? What are the 2 or 3 things that are like non-negotiable for you?
Unit economics, repeats, and NPS.
For an early stage founder, like I didn't know what NPS meant when I started. So what is NPS?
So NPS, look, obviously net promoter score, right? It's essentially, what percentage of your customers actually love your product versus a minus, the people who either don't care about it or do not like it. Uh, that's another way of kind of showing what the customer love is. Now, whether you're selling like 100 units a day or whether you're selling 1 million units a day, that customer love, that NPS always exists, right? Our advice to all our founders, when the day you start, right, is the day you actually start monitoring and tracking your NPS. And that is something which is non-negotiable for us.
Then, Rajat, moving to you. Abhishek obviously talked about the metrics, right? What's something that you think is not so great, or what should founders watch out for, right? Is it high churn? Is it high burn? Is it a really competitive category? Like, what is not so great, or what should a founder be saying, hey, like, what should you as an investor tell a founder, look out for these things because this is trouble ahead for you?
Yeah, so for me, especially in the early days when repeats, etc., may not be as visible, CAC paybacks would be something that I would really index on. Look, we all know what's happening in the D2C CAC world, and obviously that's an issue. But focus on getting that CAC payback, depending on what the nature of the business is, in the first transaction or within 3 to 6 months. So that's something that I would over-index on. Also, in the early stage, I've often found that the problem is actually more in the product versus whether that product is attacking a large enough market versus in anything else. And oftentimes I found founders almost always pivoting or changing the product too late. So I would focus inordinately on whether the conversion rates are actually good, what Abhishek talked about, NPS and my CAC paybacks, but to diagnose the product problems if there are any.
Last question to Abhishek. Look, it's booming, right? Like D2C, COVID helped us grow significantly as an industry. But with growth in the industry, there's also lots of competition, right? So, how do you view competition in industry, barriers to entry, and how does a founder defend their brand in such an ecosystem?
So Arjun, good question. I think the way we look at it, right? A startup typically, by definition, is someone with lesser number of resources. Whether it's bandwidth, whether it's capital, right? We always advise our founders, you do one thing, but you do it really, really well, right? You top line. So look, if you top line is something at least we never chase, we never advise to chase, right? But if you're really good at a particular positioning, if you're really good at a particular uniqueness in your product, and if you stay true to that, that itself becomes a solid moat. And if you would actually see in most of the companies we back, this is something this is like a common thread, right? Whether it's a caffeine-based personal care, whether it's a licensed merchandising, whether it's customized skincare, there is this that unique mode, there is that unique positioning that actually exists throughout. And for us, that is something that is the mode, or that's the competitive edge for the company.
And last question to Rajat before we wrap this one. There is debt available now to startups, which wasn't the case when I was building. As an equity investor in companies, like how does a startup founder choose between how much debt, how much equity, what rate of debt, or what kind of debt?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm very qualified to answer this. We should ask Bhavik. But look, there are lots of options available, right? And I think equity by and large for a D2C brand should be used for your burn purposes. If you can finance your inventory for debt, using debt, or like try the new age things like revenue-based financing, which is also available for your marketing costs and so on. So there's a lots of things available. I think in the early days, you shouldn't over leverage for sure, right? So I think I don't think of it in terms of too much debt to equity coverage and all, but broadly the way to think about it is at least you should. I think of it in terms of total burn of company. At a Series A stage or a seed stage. A seed stage company should probably be burning 10, 20, 30 lakhs a month. Series A, 60 lakhs to a crore a month. So maybe you could use those benchmarks to come to terms with, how much you can burn on debt servicing and so on.
Awesome, everyone. Big round of applause to Rajat and Abhishek for sharing the investor's point of view with us. For the next session, I'm going to invite two good friends to the stage. We're going to have Ankur Bhatia, founder of Jimmy's Cocktails, and Hitesh Dhingra, founder of the Man Company. So big round of applause to Abhishek and Rajat, and please join us, Ankur and Hitesh. Hello, sir. Awesome. So look, we're going to move and segue from the investor conversation to now founder conversation, and going to spend some time. We're going to spend some time on Omni-channel because both of these founders know Omni-channel. That's something I couldn't crack. So first question to Ankur actually. Big question, like offline retailers and distributors crib when there's discount online, right? So what's your view on price parity and maintaining that parity between online and offline?
One of the things I always, when I was told to come here and talk about the Omni-channel, and I'm a new founder, right? My company is young, it's just 2 years old. First of all, I don't understand why is there a differentiation anyways, right? All of us are striving to make great products. We are using all growth hacking techniques, performance measures to take it to the consumer. And wherever that consumer exists, be it via Facebook or Google or retail or quick commerce or any other channel that's unique to your product, that channel is important to you. And hence omni-channel exists. So the question that should one or should not do omni-channel, I think is irrelevant in my point. Now, specific to Arjun, what you asked me about price point, I think it differs from different category. When we started a beverage product, we knew that 95% of the category was in retail. So we had to go retail first. Although we had existing knowledge of how to run D2C businesses, it didn't make sense for us. Especially for a product, one bottle being 99 rupees, the per value cost of performance was not adding up. Even though, every VC I was talking to was only talking to me about D2C. So, for optics, we also kept D2C alive. But the point was, pricing is a very, very product dependent phenomena. A personal care product for 1,000 rupees has the inbuilt cost of acquisition, which it can afford to take it forward. Similarly, for a lower value product, let's say a 10 rupee Coca-Cola, there's absolutely no way they're ever going to do performance. Hence, retail becomes that important. So very category dependent.
And Hitesh was to ask you, some brands start online, some brands start offline. But for an online brand, what's the right point of time that you start exploring offline?
Yes, so I think it depends on the category. So like Ankur mentioned, for especially the beverage space, food and beverage space, it makes sense to start early because a huge chunk of categories still offline is being consumed either through modern trade or general trade. Same goes for personal care as well, but still I think personal care, just because of the unit economics, online is still the best way to start off with, right? So I can tell you about what our strategy was when we started Man Company. We wanted to build India's first experiential brand, right? Now you can't really build an experiential brand on marketplaces. So before even launching the brand on Flipkart or Amazon, we were present at Delhi airport, right? So, but it was more for experiences. Even after Delhi airport, we ventured into salons. So we started offering our products to Looks, Enrich, and different salons across the country. So I think the timing is important, but more than timing, it is important where you are selling your products in the offline space. Offline is very, very deep. So you can't compete with Livers and PNG just on the doorsteps. So you need to identify which battle to play. So for example, for us, instead of getting into general trade, we decided to start with modern trade and that to a lifestyle format. Brands like Shoppers Stop, Central, Lifestyle, right? So there was no personal care brand available in these stores. So we got an easy entry and we got at least couple of years time to build the brand there when no other brand, including our competitors, were present. Right? So I think more than timing, what matters is where you're getting into and the overall strategy for offline, which is very, very important.
And Ankur, now I want to talk to you about marketing, right? Obviously, we know the online marketing playbook, but when you look at marketing offline with limited budgets and not able to do ATL, right, in early stage, what do you do as a founder? Like, what are the channels that you can leverage to get the most bang for the buck?
You know, 2 years ago, that was the same question I was asking myself when I started my company, because I had to build a brand, almost a category which did not exist. I had to do it inside retail, but I had absolutely zero funds for marketing, right? How do you build a brand? How do you build a category and get somebody to buy it on shelf without the people not even knowing that the brand exists or the category even is desired, right? That is where I think the way I started understanding D2C differently. And I've said it in a few forums that to relegate D2C to purely revenue is then not really understanding its true essence. What we do at Jimmy's is, for us, D2C has now become almost like a marketing channel. To give you an example, we all grew up seeing this brand called Red Bull, right? We've seen this brand moves around, some girls with bags come to you, they give you a can, you taste it, and they've been doing that year after year for last 2 decades. I don't know how many billions of dollars have gone into doing that. We reversed the formula and we use that model, that sampling model, as a D2C model. I think we just about break even or, on a D2C side. But the amount of content we can churn, amount of sampling we can do across India, that has helped. I think a lot of you know Jimmy's Cocktails, the brand. What you don't know is that it was, the idea of the brand is just 2 years old. So we've used our D2C side to build our marketing, and everything else we've done in shop.
And Hitesh, now I want to talk about product launches, right? Like, what's the right place to launch a product? How do you think about launching products between each of the channels? How do you pilot a product? How do you test a product before you take it out?
I mean, that's answer would be same for all the D2C brands, right? So that's the biggest mode that any D2C brand has. So where, let's say, a PNG takes 9 months to 2 years to launch a product, all of us can launch it, test it out, and then probably iterate, relaunch it within 3 months, right? So I think we follow a simple process. We have almost 1.5 million registered customers who would have bought on our own channel in last 5-6 years. And whenever we have to launch a product, we do a small survey to identify where are the opportunities, what are the products, what are the pain points, even to the extent what are the ingredients they are looking for. So just to give an example, we have been focused on personal care for almost all our existence, right? And last year, we did this survey to figure out some of the pain points, and we figured out that sleep anxiety was one of the biggest challenges that our consumer was facing, right? And they wanted us to launch products focus on these challenges, because as a result of anxiety and stress or sleep, men were getting a lot of hair fall, right? So hair fall problem was increasing. So I think when we did a survey to ask them if we have to extend the brand to non-personal care and launch it in wellness, right, where we give you something for application but also something for consumption. And almost 77-78% of our consumers said, why not? Right? We would love to kind of explore. And that led us to kind of get the brand launch in, I mean, we launched it as a sub-brand, but we launched into supplements category, right? And today we have 5 products. It's been 2-3 months, and we already know out of those 5 products, which one is kind of leading the race, and we know which category we are supposed to get deeper into as a next step. Right. So I think the customer feedback, we are all of us as a D2C brand, we're building a two-way communication with the consumer, and I believe that's the strongest mode, and we need to use that mode to kind of keep launching innovative products, see what is working, what is not, what is working, get deeper into it, and launch more products in that category.
Last question to both of you, right? As a founder who's used the offline channel, what's the most effective way to start in the channel? Like, what are the places a brand gets best recognition or gets best offtake, or where should someone start? Which channels? Which stores? Any tips?
Actually, I've been asked this before, and this is more personal understanding now. I guarantee you, retail is not easy. If you think there were sharks on Shark Tank, they're probably the distributors and retailers are like piranhas. They'll keep biting you small. You won't even know that you'll getting bitten. So it's a tough game. And unlike growth hacking on Facebook, where even a youngster can learn it over time with an access to a product, build up 1-2 crore a month MRR business, retail is still slightly old school. It needs patience, it needs perseverance, it needs experience. You need to have the right teams, the right channel, the right strategy. Things will not happen as fast as, you will not get that sale day one. When you put your ad out there and you got your first sale, that eureka moment will not happen in retail because you're not even there. You are not in control of your product. You at best kept it out there. So yes, there's a remarkable difference. But as startups, I think, to answer your question specifically, we'll probably go the modern trade, quick commerce sort of route downwards. Even that is a very, very small subset. The modern trade and quick commerce will only represent 10% of your business once you scale up. 90% of retail business will always be the general trade, the mom and pop shop next door.
So I'm a very strong believer of owning a customer, right? So given a choice, I would focus on D2C and my own retail stores. By the way, we have got 42 stores of Man Company, and by end of this month, we should be around 53. I think the amount of data that you get and the opportunity to interact with the consumer firsthand with the consumer is very, very different, right? So you can't really build a brand on marketplaces or let's say the offline traditional trade distribution the way you can build it on D2C and your own retail. So if I have to like rewind our strategic decision to like 3 years back, 4 years back, when we decided to venture into offline, I would have probably started with my own stores rather than kind of selling to someone else.
Guys, big round of applause for Ankur and Hitesh talking to us about the omni-channel perspective. We're going to keep going with this now and going to call on 2 of my close friends and bring the enablers perspective. So put your hands together for Chirag, founder of Go Quick, and Vishesh, co-founder of ShipRocket. They are basically going to solve all your problems with RTO and delivery. एक नहीं चल रहा है. One is not working. This is working. Hello. So look, guys, I think a lot of people here in this room are probably calling you guys all the time and taking out the customer frustration on you, right? So you guys have the hardest job here. I think first question to Chirag, how do you start in 1 year and raise so much money and get such a high valuation? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So What's the, according to you, Chirag, in your experience now working with so many brands, what's the biggest problem for a D2C brand once the order is placed?
Once the order is placed, okay, let me take a jab at it in terms of breaking the problem differently. I would say the problem for a small merchant who's, let's say, trying to find a PMF, the problem is set is very different to someone who's skilled up and then trying to do $500,000 a day. Then the problem statement is very different. And we all know that in India, one of the bigger problem statement is that our country is 60-70% COD, probably more for smaller brands. And that suffers from a interesting problem of what we like to call as unopened boxes getting undelivered or returned, which is popularly known as RTO. I think that's a big leading problem. I would, to counter what Arjun asked me, that's perceived to be a problem which is behind the funnel, but is actually a problem which is pre-funnel. The example which I like to give is look at it from a credit risk perspective. If you've already given a loan, then it's a collection problem. It's not a credit risk problem. So similarly, if you have to solve for RTO, you need to solve pre-funnel. Post-funnel, there is very limited which you can do, at least. And that's a very, very big problem in our country.
And now to Vishesh, right? Like, look, in my time as a founder, you didn't, but Gautam and Akshay got a lot of angry calls from my wife, right? So I guess the customer frustration comes out on the brand, and then that frustration comes out on the partner, right? How do you, like, what's your advice seeing so much data for D2C brands to reduce RT?
I think we have kind of learned this over the years, and you did that well in your journey as well. I think one thing is very, very important to reduce RTO is over communicate. I think just make that announcement, make sure your customer knows what exactly is happening to the package during the entire journey in transit. Even if it's delayed, make sure you are the first one to know, and you are the one proactively telling your customer rather than reactively then finding out from the customer that the package is delayed. I think it's just communication, and the other thing could be speed. If you can reach faster, I think half of the categories are impulse purchases. The faster you reach, the higher the chance of product getting accepted is there. That's the two things I have.
Chirag, lots of founder, like these questions are crowdsourced, by the way. I'm not asking these questions to you. So lots of people asking, GoQuick has a minimum order threshold. So what about small brands, and like how can smaller brands avail of your services? There's something coming that can help smaller brands.
First of all, I think I'm myself personally very, very gutted to hear and hear that we're not able to serve some of these smaller brands or people who are starting up. We ourselves, when we started the business, we thought that we are Davids of the world trying to fight Goliath. And now not able to support Davids is something which we're working on. And why, we're not able to do today is that when we went out in the market, we realized that somebody who's doing 50 orders a day, their needs are very different from somebody who's doing 500 orders a day. Hence, the same product doesn't work for them. So we are soon launching a new product which serves the actual needs of a small brand which is starting out. And it's already in beta phase, so you will see, and that's the market we definitely want to serve.
And Vishesh, like all of us as brand owners, people in the ecosystem, we look up to a company like Amazon, right? And customers trust Amazon because of the delivery experience, because of the return experience, because of credibility, the ease of checkout. So what is your advice to a founder running a D2C brand to get closer to that Amazon experience? Like what can a founder do to really better their experience to get closer to the trust and credibility of a marketplace?
So I think Amazon has three main value props. One is predictability. So if there is a promise and a promised date of delivery, you know it's going to reach because you trust Amazon. The other is trust. You know if I don't like it, you know if I get an incorrect product, my return is going to get accepted because for people, Amazon is that intermediary. to make sure they facilitate that relationship between both parties. And for a D2C brand, I think that's about it. If you can, I'm not saying ship rocket, but we have an ecosystem ready today, which can enable you to offer the experience, a prime line experience like speed of delivery. You have 100 startups enablers facilitating that service for you. To enable trust, I think there are also intermediary parties from payment gateways to all who are willing to step in to facilitate that or mediate that dispute. And lastly, it's all about my suggestion to a lot of brands would be a delivery, the packaging experience it started mattering a lot. It really matters how your package is delivered from your outside packaging to your brand product packaging, both actually. It should not be, I have seen shoes getting delivered with a tape, the box getting taped and just sending it out in a courier with a label. I think that should not happen. It really matters.
And guys, last question to both of you, right? Like the holy grail for a D2C brand is customer delight, right? It's building that wow experience when a customer gets the product, consumes the product, uses the product. So examples you've seen or things you've seen where brands are actually able to do innovative things to make the customer actually feel delighted.
Sure, that's a good question. So, I like to see customer experience delight in at least what I advise all D2C brands is let's be objective driven. Like for example, my previous colleague said that Jimmy Cocktails wants people to discover, get to know what they're doing and not actually sell. If you can upfront find out that, okay, what is the objective you're trying to do from a customer experience point of view? Are you trying to sell a story and not sell the product? Then it becomes a very different way of exciting consumers. And if you're trying to sell products, then it becomes a very different e-commerce approach to customer experience. And then of course, once you are in the business of selling, then the delivery experience, how do you optimize for next day deliveries, as Vishesh said, all of those become critical. To cite some examples, I think we've seen many, to not do injustice to anyone, but some of the ones which I remember top of the mind, one of my friends, Man Companies there, I think they have done a phenomenal job in terms of delivering experience right from discovering products to ensuring that, especially during festive events, that how do you ensure that those moments are delivered nicely. Similarly, I think if I take the example of someone who's not very focused on, let's say, selling through their website, which is the whole truth. So they are more focused on discovering why you should be consuming whole truth, why is it different. Hence you see a very different content coming out. So those are at least top of the mind, but at least I know many which I'm ready to share offline.
And same question to you, Vishesh. Best examples of customer delight.
I think best example, if it's coming to example, I have seen a couple of brands that I have been a fan of. Jimmy's, of course. I think I have been working closely with Ankur and it's all about a story, right? Your brand needs to communicate something, and then there also needs to be a uniqueness to your product. It cannot be just a story. And apart from this, I think a great experience is offline plus online. What a brand maybe smaller, but Plum, and I've seen their products now offline plus online as well. In a category that was hyper competitive, hyper crowded, they found a niche with the quality alone. And of course, then it's working by community. And those are the examples that come to my mind when it comes to experience.
So that was our session on the enablers. Big round of applause to Chirag and Vishesh for sharing their knowledge with us. For the next session, very excited to bring founders who are taking India to the world. So put your hands together to Bala, founder of Vadam India, and Rishabh, founder of the Ayurveda Experience. So I think this one is specifically interesting for me because it's something I failed at. Like I always dreamt that I would take my products across the world, but I failed miserably at it. Um, and so I think very interesting to have two founders who've actually been able to take their products, Indian products, outside of India and really sort of show it to the world. So look, Rishabh, first question to you, right? And we've spoken about this multiple times. There's a fundamental difference between the customer here and the customer in the market operating, whether it's the US or Europe, etc., all of that. So talk to us about your journey being someone in India to understand and cater to the needs of this customer, which is different from us, right? And our needs.
Well, thanks, Arjun, and good to see you, Arjun and Bala again. Great friends, always very helpful. So we operate in about 20 countries, 60% North America, 20% in Europe. And the approach we've sort of taken to every market is actually more product focused than customer focused. So we really try to look at every market, map the entire digital space, see what are the key gaps in the market, which products are under-penetrated, which areas are under-penetrated. And that's what we really go after. This question about is the Westerner different from an Indian consumer, I don't think they are widely different. I think everybody is looking for a value prop, a quality brand, looking for efficacy. And wherever they find that, they will go. And so I don't actually think customer is vastly different, at least for sort of, let's say, masstige to prestige kind of products.
And look, from my limited experience at least, average order values are fundamentally different, right? Like they're 5, 7, 10 times higher in the West as well. So how do you look at pricing? How do you arrive at the right price for a product? Because you're basically producing here, right? And so you're obviously benchmarking cost here, but how do you arrive at the right price for a product manufactured here to be sold to a customer outside of India?
Got it. So I think, firstly, thanks for having me, Arjun. Good to finally meet you in person though. But I think to answer your question here, I think very simple for us, identifying what price to sell is a mix of, understanding the customer, the category, the competition, right? I mean, we start not bottom up, but top down, because ultimately the customer is what you're servicing, right? So even in foreign markets, if you just look at any category we're in, right? We just map what's happening currently and then sort of from there understand what value we can bring, what's our cost, what is the margin, what are the supply chain costs, and then sort of finalize what we are doing, right? And I think that principle, honestly is common across any geography, right? Be it India, be it the US, and while AOVs are higher in the US, logistics cost of marketing, cost of sales is also much higher in these markets, right? So I think broadly the principles remain the same, but the numbers might change across regions.
And Rishabh, what's the, given what the both of you have said, right? What's the right place to do your dipstick? Do you launch D2C? Do you go to Amazon? Do you figure out some other channel? How does one start with this sort of journey of selling outside of India or selling globally?
Yeah, so I think the key question there is whether there is category search for your product. So whatever your product is, if there's not enough category search for it in the US or Europe, you should not go to Amazon or Google. If there is category search, then you should start with Amazon. So I think that's a fundamental differentiator. So for example, there's not enough Ayurvedic search in Western markets. So till 3 months back, we were 100% D2C, no Amazon for 6+ years. So only 3 months back did we ever experiment with any Amazon. So I would definitely say category search is an important question. Online definitely first. Offline is extremely challenging in foreign markets, and you'll have very high inventory risks and pretty much all the risk on yourself. And a country like the US is very large and diverse also. So online definitely worse. When your channels max out, then some offline.
And then Bala, to you, right? So you start with online, but then go offline, right? But how do you start offline? Any tips to crack the offline market in a market like the US? Any learnings from you on that?
All right. So I think firstly, I think like we keep discussing, right, within us as well, that online, offline, Horeca, these are just channels, right? Ultimately, you're building a brand, and while we may be online first, that's just a go-to market. Given it's relatively easier to sort of penetrate online markets, find your product market fit, and then start scaling up, right? Uh, and if you look at offline, right, our journey has been very straightforward, right? You go online, win on marketplaces in your own platform, build social proof, find the products which are doing well, uh, and if you can get to that, I think there is already a lot of inbound interest you will get, and even if you're then investing into getting into offline, your chances of success are just much higher because you know what product to sell, what price to sell at, which is the region, right? Is it LA, is it New York, or is it like the smaller cities, right? Depending on what price you're positioned as a brand, right? So I think my 2 cents would be to sort of just follow an online first approach to understand your customer better, and then identify your retail strategy and execute on it.
And then one last question to the two of you, right? Because you'll have been able to do it successfully. There's a lot of people here in this room who want to take their brands global, who want to take their D2C products global. Your view on two things. One, really the future of Indian brands going global, like where do you see it happening, which categories, how do brands do it, how it's going to happen. And two, after the US, where next?
So I think, now there's multiple examples in many categories of people having done the US. So there's, of course, personal care, skincare, there's toys, crafts, all sort of teas, of course, all sorts of categories people have done it. So if you have better than market product for a particular market, right value prop at the right price point, good brand, I think it's place for all brands to go. What people should understand is the US is relatively easier because India-US logistics is a much more refined channel. US regulations are sort of easier than European regulations. So it's definitely easier to enter the US. Any brand could sort of do it if they have the right value prop. So I would encourage it. The gross margin is in your favor, so that's your big plus point. And after the US, of course, Europe, for wherever there's a consolidated regulation, is a big market. And a significant amount of Europe also speaks English. So if you do single language, you could have quite a play there. And then for the large markets like Germany, France, you can do some content adaptation. So I would definitely say Europe post the US is a good bet.
And same question to you, Bala.
So I think, again, Arjun, you can sort of go global in any category, but fundamentally the one thing I keep telling everybody who's looking to go global is, what's your ticket to win in global markets, right? Are you bringing an entirely differentiated, innovative product to the market? That could be one, right? A product which is better than what's available in a market like the US or any other global market. Is it your brand positioning which is unique or differentiated, which is something we started off with in our case, right? Because Indian teas can only come from India, right? So we knew there's this differentiation we can bring by making products available direct from origin. And third is, of course, if you understand distribution better, but that's tough because we're from this country, and I'm sure people locally know that better. So I think the first and second bracket is where you need to identify your differentiator and go whichever category that may be. And I think the second question very similar to what Rishabh said, right? I think why we started with America, continue to have like 70% of our business in the US is because just English-speaking country, high GDP, high disposable income, solid internet infrastructure, right from logistics to marketing. The customer is evolved, right? I think they understand innovation much better. They're open to innovative products. So started with that. But again, I think depending on your specific category, you decide where to go next, right? For us, it was a no-brainer to go to Europe, but it potentially could be, say, a South Asia or I don't know, like some Australia, New Zealand for some other folks, like obviously what Rishabh has done.
Awesome. So some amazing perspectives for all of you who want to take your brands from India to the world. Thanks so much, Rishabh and Bala. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to keep going with this. I'm exhausted, but let's see how far we get. Introducing for the next session, another investor session actually. Two investors who I've pitched to who didn't end up investing in my company, so I'm going to ask them the hard questions. A big round of applause to Vinay from Fireside and Archana from Rukam. Tough questions coming up. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the first question to Archana actually. So there's a rumor I've heard that in consumer brands and in the D2C ecosystem, Archana is the toughest investor to crack. So what's the secret to crack Archana and get money from Rukam?
I just follow Vinay. Whatever Vinay tells me, I do it. Ask Vinay that question.
Okay, so Vinay, obviously all of us know Fireside and the amazing bets that you guys have taken, right? But I asked Ashwin this question earlier as well. Seeing so many pitches like you've seen, meeting so many founders, you know what you like and what you don't like. And I've heard from investors who've been investors for a while that you know in the first 10 minutes of the conversation with the founder. So what are you looking for when you start engaging with a founder? Like what makes you tick when you meet a founder?
If Archana has rejected the founder, that's a positive. But jokes apart, not to be frivolous, I think it's always about the why. And the reason for doing what you're doing, I think will keep the team and the founder motivated to do this for a very long time. And that's something I definitely want to test for. Yeah, and typically in the first 10 minutes, at least you start getting glimpses of it, but no investment decisions are made in 10.
And Archana, we have some crowdsourced questions as well. So I guess a offline founder has asked this question. Will D2C brands ever be profitable? And we know some that are. And like, do you actually look at this metric, like the bottom line? Do you even care about it?
So we believe in offline, online, as well as omni-channel play because India is a very deep and vast market, and I think there's an opportunity for all kinds of businesses. There are different ways businesses can be built. As long as there is a wanting and willingness to build a large business. I think ultimately for investors, it's about how quickly you can scale, how large can your business be. I think the channel strategy is entirely a function of product and where the customer is.
And Vinay, there's lots of questions that founders ask me about, hey, should I focus on my own website or should I focus on marketplaces? What do investors like better, right? So my question to you is like, do you have a view on marketplace or D2C own website, or is it category dependent? How do you look at that?
I think it's horses for courses. Excuse me. I think it's horses for courses. So each channel has a role to play in your overall market approach strategy. At least the way we look at it, for most categories, the D2C website ends up becoming your online lab where you can actually interact directly with consumers, first party data, test out various mixes, whether it's pricing, product, packaging options, etc., and really figure out or potential winners are before you start investing big gobs of money on marketplaces to push them into the first page of search results. However, if you are in a category where you see that there is a space in marketplaces, there's an underserved search cluster that is not having enough products, then as an entrepreneur, you need to take that call and go in and take advantage of that situation. So I think you need to be across places because you need to make the consumer comfortable wherever she wants to, transact and interact with you.
And like everyone's asking, so like, if I want to start now, what's hot? What's exciting? What's not so competitive? Where is there growth opportunity? Where are there not so many brands, right? So for you, given what's happened over the last 2 years with the amount of growth but also competition, what spaces are exciting for you right now where there's not so much action and looking for something new?
So again, that's a little formulaic, and at least I try and stay away from formulas in that sense. Ultimately, it's a function of where there's natural traction for any business idea. I don't think there's any such thing as a very crowded, saturated market. The US market is a very good proxy to understand that, right? I mean, there are tons and tons of large skincare companies, and yet, there have been so many good skincare companies that have come up. And true for every category, because I don't think there's any one brand that solves every problem in that category. And customer problems change, and there are lots of hard problems to solve for. So I would just say that the more than sectors and categories, what excites me is founders who've understood a hard problem and has a really, really interesting solution for it.
And I guess last question, right, to Vinay. I'm going to ask Archana a slightly different one. You're seeing, you get to meet as an investor a lot of founders, but you also get to see the industry from a vantage point of not the horse with blinders that I was building my business, but from sort of top down, right? So 3 key trends that you're going to see in the consumer brands or D2C ecosystem for the next 3-4 years.
That's kind of like a motherhood one, right? So thank you for putting me in the spot.
It's your job as a big investor to answer these questions.
Yeah, definitely not sitting on your right side today. But I think a couple of things that we're seeing. One is 5 years ago when we started Fireside Ventures, we had about 300 million odd internet users, about 40-50 million internet shoppers. That's grown to about 150. In the next 5 years, we see that growing to about 450 to 500 million internet shoppers. And if you look at the shopping behavior of this next 300, 400 million, it mimics the offline world. The top 100 million consumers or the top 30 million households, whatever way you want to cut the data, were very used to self-service format and going into a store and buying stuff that they needed. The next set need assistance. That is their shopping behavior. And I think companies will need to solve for how can they enable an assisted shopping environment in an online manner if they really need to touch people deeply in those next 70 odd million households. Um, and the point is that it is expanding, right? So the opportunity to create new brands in current categories, the opportunity to create new categories is massive. So that's what keeps us exciting. The second big thing that's happening, and that's exciting for us, is when we started 5 years ago, India was at a GDP per capita of about $1,800 in real terms. Today we are at about 2,000. Population is stabilized. GDP continues to grow at 6 to 8%. In the next 5 years, we believe that GDP per capita will get to about 3,000. What that really means is today in urban India, you have 1 in 4 households that you can classify as middle class, upper middle class, affluent elite. That will be 1 in 2 by the end of this decade. And for us, that's interesting because suddenly the discretionary categories will open up in a fundamentally different manner, which hasn't happened yet. You asked for 3, right?
2 is okay. 2 is okay. We'll let you go. And last question to Archana on this one, right? Your advice to all the founders sitting in the room.
I think keep talking to customers and try and really understand what the real pain points are for which they're willing to pay you their hard-earned money. If that problem is solved, you can really build large companies. Also dream big, dream of building large companies in India. Ultimately, India is a very, very large market, and truly, हमारा दिल है Hindustani, so really we should look for building big companies here.
Big round of applause to both Vinay and Archana for being so sporting and answering the tough questions that I put to them. Thank you guys. For the next session, where is he? For the next session, we have my good friend Bharat Sethi, the founder of Rage Coffee, joining us. Put your hands together for Bharat. So Bharat, everyone wants to know, how did you convince Virat Kohli that your coffee is the best coffee in India?
I think he was convinced before we started talking. So he was a consumer. And since he was a consumer, so it was easier. It just took 12 months. But but yeah, I think nothing would have happened because he's very selective, very choosy with what he endorses. And he said no to, very big brands like Coke. So I think it was the first goal for us was to be convinced ourselves that he is the consumer. And once that was there, I think then it was just the contours of the deal and the everything around the valuation sector, all of that.
And stepping back, because I've seen the journey of Rage for at least 3.5 years now, and we've spoken early on when it wasn't such a rage, right? So even with really limited budgets, you guys did some really, really cool stuff, right? From a marketing perspective. Today you've raised money, you have Virat Kohli, you have all of this capital to be able to do really cool campaigns. But even with a limited budget, like how can a founder stretch their dollar to the maximum to still be so cool, even if you don't have so much available to you?
It's a very, very interesting question. I think only somebody who's an insider to the ecosystem can find this to be a very interesting case because we actually have been building the brand from day one. When I say the brand, we've been very focused on who we partner with, what we do, what channels we are using to capture the market, how we are approaching the market and our consumers. So I'll try to break it down for everyone. The first thing is the understanding of the consumer and then break down those customers and those consumer sets into various cohorts and then study what these cohorts really want and then do only one thing right for all of these cohorts. So for example, we approached a lot of gamers. We just did one thing right for them, one story that worked for them. We approached a lot of corporate people in offices. So we only pitched the story of convenience to them. So I think that really mattered. Beyond that, I feel not trying to do too much right was very important. Just focusing on a couple of things, one channel, one marketing style, and built a stellar team from the go because there were not 10 people doing the job for 5 people, there were 2 people doing the job for 10 people. So I think all of that really kind of helped us in being very cost efficient and still build a great brand pull, what we call as brand salience.
And last question, Bharat, look, if you go on Cred, you see a lot of coffee brands available, right? It's a hot space, it's a growing market. How do you think of your moat or differentiation or standing out as a brand in this competitive ecosystem? And you guys have, right? So what's the secret?
We're not following any one brand or we're not following any one certain position in the market. We've been absolutely fearless and revolutionary in the way we approach the market and the consumer. You think of the name Rage. 4 or 5 years back, I mean, now it's become a common household name. So everybody knows, everybody calls a coffee that's energy filled or is, noteworthy. They call it Rage coffee. But just taking those bold steps kind of talks about the DNA of the brand, which is that we follow our own path. We know what the consumer want, and we know it at least 12 months to 2 years before anybody else in the market figures that out. And we just go out and get that customer. So, not fixated on what the competition looks like, what they're doing, what not. So that's how I look at the market.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bharat. Thank you for taking out the time and sharing the secret to get Virat Kohli. Thanks, man. Next up, we have. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the roll-up ecosystem now, and so for that we have my good friend Gautam Kshatriya, founder of Upscaleo. First time we're meeting in person. He's ditched me like 10 times now, so. I've been up so long, I don't really care. So Gautam, so. I think it's on, right? Just check.
Hello.
So Gautam, look, we spoke the first time April of 2021. It was a wild time. Nobody knew what this roll-up thing was. Everyone wanted to acquire everyone. What's happened over the last like 8-9 months? Like, where are we now?
So yeah, it's been a crazy journey. It was, you're absolutely right. It was April. It was March 16th actually that I sort of took my flight down from Dubai. No capital, no co-founders, no colleagues, with this idea to start Upscaleo. And we were the last entrant in this space actually. Aman from Global Bees, obviously, and his colleagues had already started something. Mensa had as well. So we were very much the underdogs. But then since, I'm proud to say we've made quite a bit of headway. We've acquired 13 brands, and these brands sell products such as gaming chairs, automotive accessories, kitchen appliances, etc., etc. And in these short 9 months, I would say, because even though I started in March, the company really only got off the ground in June. We're now at an annual run rate of about 300 crores. And knock on wood, we're almost profitable.
And so, Gautam, just for all those people who are going to pitch to you after you go back from this stage, what do you look for? Like I know I've referred a bunch of companies and you've not bought any of them, so you're really picky. But like what do you look for in a company when you look to acquire?
So there are 3 or 4 things that we look at. I mean, first of all, we're very focused in the kind of categories that we're interested in. So we tend to look to acquire business in the home and kitchen / general merchandise category. So while we evaluate beauty and personal care brands, lifestyle brands, fashion brands, those aren't core areas of focus for us. So first, it's kind of being in the general merchandise, home and kitchen category. The second thing that we look at is materiality of business. We typically like to acquire businesses that are at least doing 5 to 10 crores in revenue, right? And the reason for that is quite simple. Once you achieve that scale, you've not only demonstrated sort of product market fit, but you've demonstrated that you've been able to achieve that product market fit in a sustainable way, right? That you've really built a business that can not only continue, but continue to grow quite aggressively going forward. And then, of course, the most important thing is founder fit. I mean, our operating model, Arjun, is where we kind of take a sizable chunk, can be a significant minority or a majority share in the companies that we invest in. So what that means is that we're going to be working hand in hand with our fellow entrepreneurs for a long period of time. So we need to align in terms of where we think the brand should go, and of course on values as well, right? Do we want to operate a business in a particular way that aligns with the way that they want to operate and grow that business going forward?
And then last one, Gautam, to you actually. So obviously you've done a bunch of acquisitions, but there are a bunch that will happen in the next 9 months, right? In the remainder of 2022. So what is Upscaleo looking for right now to add to the portfolio and the ecosystem of brands?
So, I mean, very honestly, very flexible, right? The the utility, the home and kitchen space is a broad one. And there are several categories, subcategories, where we do not have any acquisitions. It would take me ages to kind of tell you where, we would like to acquire a company, but we haven't yet because we've only acquired 13 brands. So if you are an entrepreneur that has a 5 crore plus business and you're excited about potentially partnering with a team that can bring marketing, that can bring supply chain, that can bring e-commerce expertise, we'd love to talk to you.
And last one, right? What happens once a company comes inside Upscaleo? What happens once a founder, once a company is acquired? What's the experience then?
So it depends from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, right? So there are some entrepreneurs that partner with us that are excited to continue working with their brand, with that business over a long period of time. While there are others that say, hey, listen, I've put in my blood, sweat, toil, and tears for 5-6 years, and now I just want to hand over my baby to somebody with safe hands, and that person can independently grow that baby. So we work with either model, right? We are most excited, however, when we come across an entrepreneur that has not only built a great business, but has a real thirst for expanding that business alongside with us. In that situation, what we do is we essentially embed the new brand into the Upscaleo ecosystem. So we imagine basically that this entrepreneur and his colleagues was a small set of people that were hustling and running this brand and doing everything. Now, when they are embedded in the Upscaleo ecosystem, they have access to deep digital marketing expertise, deep e-commerce marketplace management expertise, deep D2C website scaling capabilities, deep supply chain, warehousing logistics capabilities and sourcing expertise. So it's actually, I've heard this said to me that it's sort of like it's an extension of my family. Suddenly I'm liberated, right? I'm suddenly liberated from the day-to-day drudgery. And now I can think more strategically about how I can grow my brand. I can share how I want to execute certain projects to grow my business. And then the Upscaleo team just runs with it.
Awesome, Gautam. Thank you so much for sharing with us the roll-up experience and what it's like to be building Upscaleo. Big round of applause for my good friend Gautam.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Arjun. Pleasure.
And for the last session, the one everyone's been waiting for, can I get a huge round of applause for Aman Gupta, our in-house shark and the founder of Boat. Aman bhai, can we have you on stage? So Varun was supposed to be with us in this session, but he hasn't made it because of the traffic. But I wanted to do a podcast with you and I never got a chance. So this is that podcast that I've always wanted to do with you. So look, I think we've crowdsourced the questions. So these aren't mine. These are, you can't hear me? Now? You can hear me now? Huh? Better? So I think a lot of people asking about the experience of Shark Tank and being a shark, right? And I know you shared this across platforms, but everyone wanted to actually know what goes on behind the scenes. How was the experience? And yeah, tell us about the experience of being a shark.
Yeah, it's a hi guys. So it's a different feeling. Being a shark, I never expected that I will be one. Yeah, so it's a very happy feeling, man. What's there not to like? Well, I'll be lying if I say I don't like being a shark. So it's a good feeling. When they called me, I was excited. They had like a few rounds of auditions, and then finally the call came, and it is magical. It is good for me. It is good for my brand. Our organic traffic has gone up. It is good for the entrepreneurs who come in and pitch in. It is good for the country. So what's bad in it? I think there are some investors who don't like this, but otherwise, I think the country likes it.
हमें चांस मिलता तो हम भी करते. Uh, Next question, actually, stepping back into like, obviously now boat is a raging success. It's synonymous with electronic accessories in the country, but it wasn't so easy, right? The journey. And I've read about multiple stories where it wasn't so easy to raise money and convince investors, and there was a lot of rejection along the way, right? And so, for all those people who think of boat and where it is today and the success, talk to us about some of the tough moments, the grit, the resilience, and how you got past those times.
Yeah, so for us, funding was very difficult. It was not as easy as probably the CPG brands or these brands, because there were some telecom brands in the country which didn't do well, and we were always called by the same name. And I always say that my death story was written before my born story. So people used to यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है मेरा बाप dash 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 है, right? So हमें तो पहले ही रिजेक्ट कर दिया था बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स ने कि चाइनीज आएंगे तुम्हारी बजा देंगे तुम लोग क्या उखाड़ लोगे. So in hindsight, it is happy that they didn't invest in us because we saved a lot of equity for ourselves. And the best part is when these investors now want to invest in us, it's a different high.
And last question. Everyone wants Aman Gupta on their cap table, right? So, and obviously you're very active investors supporting the ecosystem as well. So what does a founder need to convince Aman Gupta to invest in his or her business? What do you look for?
So I invested in a company called WYLD, Wild or something, right? So they were in a social media influencer management company, and the only reason I invested in them was the founders were amazing. I think for me, it's just about the founder. If you've seen Shark Tank also, I invest out behind the founder. If he's passionate, if he knows his stuff, then 90% of the problem is solved. If not in this business, maybe in some other business, but he'll follow somewhere or the other. So for me, 10% is business and market, but 90% is the founder for me.
Thank you so much, Aman, for being with us, and thank you to all of you for being patient through this amazing Unconference. It's been great to have all of you listen to all of these conversations, and yeah, let's break for drinks and dinner and have a great time for the rest of the night.
Cheers, thanks.
Hello. So it's not over until it's over. Just final few announcements for everyone.